Hey girls, it's Jessie, and today I'm going to be talking about tips for new moms. So if you're a new mom, you'll definitely want to watch this video and you might get some good use out of these tips. So number one, if you're anything like me, I didn't have a whole lot of advice to go on when I had my first baby. So I kind of had to just learn on my own. If you're like that and you don't have that, but either way, it's fine. You can listen to these tips. Number one, most important thing when you first have a baby is your sleep, because your sanity depends on how much sleep you got. Now, when you first have a baby, a lot of moms will have the baby at random hours, and maybe in the middle of the day, the middle of the night. But as soon as you have that baby, you're on call. So the baby has got to be taken care of, and they only sleep in intervals. So your sleep is going to be a lot more difficult to get once the baby comes. So you just had the baby, you're in the hospital, and you're like, what do I do? For one, what you expect is, well, at least in my experience, the baby would sleep about 1 to 2 hours and then wake up and want to eat. And what I noticed is for the first several months, this was the routine. They would sleep 1 or 2 hours and then they wake up and they would want to eat. And that's pretty much all they do in the very first, I would say about 3 months or so. They just want to sleep and then eat. They want to sleep and eat. And it seems like, to you, it might seem like, wow, why do they always want to eat? I just fed them. Is there something wrong? And when you're a mom, your brain just wants to go into panic all the time when you're a new mom. So you have to kind of tell yourself, okay, chill, don't overreact, because every new mom overreacts to every little thing. And just realize and come to expect that your newborn wants to be close to you pretty much all the time when they're awake. And they also are going to want to eat pretty much most of the time when they're awake, at least for the first 3 months. So it might seem odd to you, but when you think about it, the newborn they're not eating solid foods, they're just drinking milk. So it doesn't last as long in their stomachs. For example, if I went all day long and all I did was drink, I would get hungry a lot more often because all I'm doing is drinking, and the food, I'm not intaking any food, so it doesn't last as long for the infant. So you think, oh, I just fed them, why are they so hungry? It's going into their tummy and then going straight out because it's just liquid. So they will want to eat, and you're not doing anything wrong. I always made it a point to just feed them. They're asking, just feed them whenever they want it, and it's good for them, it's healthy for them, and they'll be fine, you'll be fine. Now, as far as sleep goes, you're going to want to get as much sleep as you possibly can in the first few weeks, which sounds impossible, but you just have to realize, you have to brace yourself and realize that once this baby comes, I'm going to have to survive the first 3 weeks, because those are the most excruciating weeks, in my opinion. It's because everything is a little bit off, it's a little bit crazy, everybody's adjusting, and you just have not slept very much. So don't be afraid to ask for help if you have help. If you have a husband, or maybe your mom can come by for a few hours and take care of the baby some, or help you get a nap, or do dishes, or whatever. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and that will maybe buy you some time to catch up on sleep. Another thing that you can do is you're going to have to learn to take quick naps. So, and from my experience, the baby would sleep about 1 to 2 hours, and then they would wake up and want to eat for about an hour, and then they would go back to sleep. And I'm going to teach you some tricks on how to keep the baby asleep so you can sneak away and take a little bit of nap, and that even if you get 30 minutes, it will really help your mood. So one thing you want to do that's super, super important that I just learned from experience is that when you're feeding your baby, and let's just pretend I have a baby here, when you're feeding your baby, and the baby is breastfeeding, and my first baby, she breastfed a long time, like 45 minutes. But at the end of the breastfeeding session, she would fall asleep in my arms. And I would watch her fall asleep. And I made a mistake of, when she fell asleep, I would just sit there and continue to hold her. And then after like 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I would try to sneak her into her crib, which just didn't work. And then she would wake up, and then I would end up sitting for another 45 minutes breastfeeding. So here's the trick. What you want to do is, as soon as the baby falls asleep, and I mean like within the first minute or seconds even, you see the baby fall asleep and they're out. That's time to move. You get up right then. Their tummy's full of milk. They just conked out. Now is your chance to get them in the crib without them waking up, because this is the moment where them waking up is the least probable. So you need to take them and just carefully take them to the crib as quiet as you can. Try not to, move your hands a lot, and then just set them in there and then walk away. And if they don't move around and cry, it's a success. So go to a nearby couch or whatever and just take a nap for like 30 minutes and see what you can do. And then the baby will wake up again after that, and you just have to catch up on your sleep like that by putting the baby in the crib immediately. The key is to put them in the crib as soon as they fall asleep. If you wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you just sit there and you go, oh, I'm so tired, I don't feel like putting them in the crib right now, chances are when you do try to put them in the crib, they will wake up. So they don't wake up as much if you move them right away as soon as they fall asleep. So these are all things that you can do for your sanity, because things get really crazy when mama has no sleep. So especially when you just had a newborn and it was just a 24-hour labor and you've been up all night, and then the baby stays up constantly almost, they're only on and off. This is really going to save you a lot of headache if you can implement this trick that I just told you, where you just put the baby in the crib right away, and then you catch up on your naps slowly but surely. And if you do that, within 2 weeks, you could be pretty well caught up on your sleep that you lost. Even though you're doing it slowly and it takes a little bit longer, you're surviving better and your mood is better and everything doesn't feel so chaotic to you. Another tip on keeping baby asleep is, baby just came from your womb. So they were in this little tight warm space for like 9 months, and they love it and they're comfortable there. And they're gonna, when they come out, they're gonna want to lay on you. You're warm, they can feel your breathing, they can hear your voice. These are all things that they experienced while they were in your womb for 9 months. So they're going to want to be close to you. They're going to be warm and cozy. One tip is to wrap the baby in, and it's called swaddling, and you can Google it and look up how to do it on the internet. Also, the nurses, ask your nurse to show you how to do it. But there's a certain way they wrap the babies, and they wrap them particularly tight. So not like you're not squeezing the life out of your baby, but you're making it really tight and cozy. And so when it reminds them of being in your womb, and they stay asleep longer that way. They're warm, they're in this little tight space, and sometimes it looks like, oh my goodness, they look like a burrito and they're suffocating in there, but it's not. They're used to it, and of course you don't want to put it on their face, but you just wrap them all cozy and tight, and then the nurses can tell you how to wrap it where it stays. And then that way they end up sleeping longer if they're warm. Another thing you can do is put a little beanie on their head that keeps the heat in, put little socks on their toes, or get outfits that have the feet are already covered in them, and that helps keep baby warm and cozy, and then they stay asleep a lot longer that way. Okay, another tip is to, when I first had my first baby, you're like dog tired. You just got home from the hospital. Your husband just hits the couch. He's like not interested in helping. And there you are with baby. And you're just struggling so hard to stay awake. And I learned the hard way, thinking that I could sit in the chair and breastfeed my baby and that I would be okay, and that I would not fall asleep. No. So one thing you need to do to keep in mind for the safety of your baby is you don't want to fall asleep with them in your arms, because you don't want to ever put your newborn in a situation where anything is covering their nose or their breathing. So obviously you want their airways to not be restricted at all. So don't trust yourself. Set an alarm on your phone or your clock or whatever, or get a little clock from Walmart and set an alarm for, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes, to make sure that, or maybe even longer, you can figure out how long it takes to breastfeed your baby, and then set an alarm for a certain time so that if you do fall asleep with her or him in your arms, it's not going to be a problem where you're dropping them or anything like that. So it's just a good backup to do that, or if you have help, like have your husband come in to check on you after 10, 15 minutes, to just make sure that you haven't fallen asleep with the baby. Along that same note is the baby's safety. They say to always put the baby in a crib, and you don't want to be sleeping with your baby because you don't want to fall or like roll over on them while you're asleep. I hate to think about this stuff, but I learned I didn't really learn the hard way, but with my first baby, I was so tired. I actually slept with her in my bed. And then I started reading about how that is not a good idea. And they make these products this is one option, is they're a little bassinet and they actually hook onto like the side of your bed. So it's easy for you. You don't have to get out of bed at all. Once you're done breastfeeding the baby, you just simply transfer the baby right over to this bassinet that's like hooked onto your bed, but the baby's not in your bed. So they're right next to you, and you can do that. And so you can invest in one of those type things, or what they recommend is to have a crib without any fluffing on the side, no teddy bears or anything like that in the crib, nothing that would block their airways, no blankets or anything like that. You're going to wrap the baby, swaddle the baby, and then lay them on their back. And so I actually, by the time I had my third child, really got a hang of this really well. And I learned that, because it was so daunting to me in the beginning, I thought, the baby will never sleep in that crib. She has to be right next to me all the time. But I figured out the trick that I told you earlier, that if you put them in right away, as soon as they fall asleep, they actually will stay there. And then once they're in the crib, they do get used to it. And then besides that, don't worry, because they're going to want to spend a lot of time in your arms besides that. So as far as what to expect, once a baby comes home, they generally sleep about 1 to 2 hours. Now every baby's probably different, but in my experience, all 4 of my babies did about the same thing. So they come home, they sleep about 1 to 2 hours, and then when they wake up, they're going to want to eat, and it feels like all they want to do is eat. And then they go back to sleep again, and it's like that 24/7. And then as they get older, and I'm approaching maybe like 3 months, just in general, they will start to come out of that, and they'll start sleeping longer periods of time. And so sometimes the baby will even start sleeping overnight. And I don't want to give like a certain time frame, but it's somewhere around 3 months, it seems, where they start to break that pattern of sleeping every 2 hours. So in the beginning, it's actually kind of convenient because the baby will sleep pretty much most of the time. And so you do have a lot of opportunities as long as you get the baby in the crib and get them in there right away, and you can sleep that way. Now, once baby hits 3 months, then, like I said, they're gonna sleep longer and longer the older they get, usually. And then sometimes they'll sleep overnight eventually, like that. One biggie is a lot of people have problems with their baby having something called colic, which is when they cry a whole lot and they just seem irritable all the time. I had 2 out of 4 babies that had colic, and I did everything. I mean, all the things that they recommended, the medicine, everything, it was a nightmare. And my babies would push their bellies out, and they just looked like they were in so much pain. And it was horrific as a mom to watch your baby. go through that and not know what in the world's going on. But I figured it out. So, and I honestly believe, and I could be wrong, but I honestly believe that most babies who are having colic issues, that the reason is dairy intake. So what I found is that with my babies that did have colic, when I cut out dairy completely, and I mean you have to cut it out completely, no cheese, not even a slice, and once you cut it out, all of that will literally just go away. And so if you're not sure, just give it a try, give it a month and see. Just go no dairy, and it's not easy because, I love my cheese. Who doesn't love cheese? And then, if you're a cereal person, milk. I mean, you have to give up, and I had to be like on top of it. If you go out to eat, you have to make sure that there's no dairy in anything, no ice cream. So it is a bummer, but the good news is it only lasts, if they do have a dairy intolerance, it lasts about 6 months. About 6 to 9 months, and then boom, they're okay. You can have milk, and their stomachs can handle the dairy. And what I found is a lot of people just suffer through this thing, and they call it colic because they don't know what it is. But in my personal opinion, I think it's that baby stomachs are not ready for milk, and so they're just not ready to process that, and so it's very painful for them. When I cut that out, I mean, it just completely stopped. And my babies, they didn't cry at all anymore. It was like a black and white thing. So if you're having trouble with that and the baby just seems excessively fussy and like they're in pain, like pushing their stomach out, try cutting out all dairy. And look forward to the fact that it only lasts about 6 to 9 months. It is a bummer, but it is much better than watching your baby, in pain. Okay, next thing I'm going to talk about is breastfeeding your baby. There was a person when before I had my first, she said, "Are you breastfeeding?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I plan to." And she said, "Oh, good. That's really good for your baby." It is really good for your baby. And of course, we're designed to do that. And some people do have issues, but I just want to encourage you not to give up so quick. And I think a lot of moms do that so quick. They get very discouraged. Oh no, the baby's not latching on. What do I do? They're not getting milk. But I just want to let you know that breastfeeding is super good for your baby. It has your breasts, our bodies are amazing. And so the way God created them, you will, the food that you eat will turn into, your body will process that. And there are so many vitamins in your breast milk that are so good for your baby. And, they also will give your baby immunity to different, any kind of virus or cold or anything like that, because your breast milk is just packed with nutrition and vitamins and all kinds of immunities. So if you can breastfeed, definitely do that, because it's really the best thing you can do for your baby. Now, it is kind of hard in the first 2 weeks. Now, I'm going to say 2 to 4 weeks. My first baby, it was about 2 weeks. My fourth baby, it was about 3 to 4 weeks. And I think it just depends, but it's especially painful in the very beginning, but it does go away. And there are ways to help that. There is this stuff that they sell at the store in a little purple box, and it's like an ointment, and it's called Lanolin. And it's a cream, and you put that on your nipple, and you want to put it on there often, like after every breastfeeding, because if not, you will just become like, it'll be like a little shark chewing on you, and it just becomes raw, and it's just not pretty. So, you get that stuff called Lanolin. Make sure you get it before you go to the hospital and stick it in your hospital bag, and put that on your breasts, and because your nipples will get sore, but after, like I said, it doesn't, just keep in your mind, this does not last forever, and it will go away after about 2 to 4 weeks. And I would say more like 2 to 3 weeks. It'll go away, and your nipples will heal up, and they'll become kind of resistant and callous to that, somewhat. And it still hurts every once in a while because baby will, suck too hard or something like that. But for the most part, it gets rid of most of the pain, and you can look forward to the fact that that's going to go away eventually. One really good tip that someone told me in the very beginning was to take my mattress off of my bed and just put it on the floor. And that was one of the best tips that I ever received from someone, because it's great. You put the mattress on the floor, and you don't have to worry if you've got your baby laying there or whatever about the baby falling off the bed like 4 feet to the ground. And I learned the hard way, because with my first, she fell off when she was young, and accidents happen pretty easy. She fell off when she was young once, and then when she was a toddler, she fell off and hit her head on the metal part under the bed, and we had to make a trip to the ER. So it's even good for toddlers. Just take mommy and daddy's bed, take it off the metal frame, store the metal frame, and just stick it on the floor. And you've got basically this soft cushion on the floor, and there's no risk of anyone falling off at all. And it's just so much more relieving and relaxing. You don't have to worry about that. And I was always in the beginning having to, you can't even walk away like just a foot or two, because you have to make sure that the baby's going to stay there, if you're folding clothes or anything like that. So just, that was one of the best advice. And I put the mattress on the floor, and I kept it that way for, I guess, about probably 9 years. And my mattress is still on the floor, and it's great. It just takes away all of that worry. One thing to invest in that really helps with sleep is a baby swing. Baby swings are like, they work wonders with babies for some reason. Whenever I put my baby in, they would just fall asleep. And if you run out of options and your baby just simply is not sleeping and you're about to explode, or you're having a mommy chaos moment or whatever, what you can do is stick them in one of those swings. There's lots of options on swings in the market today, and you can have fun picking one out for your baby, and then put them in that swing, set it for about 30 minutes, and just let them swing, and then they fall asleep. And now, I always was worried not to leave the baby in the swing for like an hour or two. I was thinking that wouldn't be very good for them, with their head going back and forth for that long. So I always made it a point to myself to just 30 minutes was like max, and then once they fell asleep, I would just turn it down, a notch at a time, or I would just turn it down and it would slowly rock to a stop, and then sometimes they would continue to sleep, sometimes they would wake up. Either way, if they're just in a mood, they're not sleeping, that is something that you can go to last resort, and it usually works. For at least 30 minutes, they'll get a little sleep and you'll get a little rest, and that helps also you keep your sanity, and it's just all around good for everybody. Another good product to get is a little baby food warmer. I don't like to microwave my baby food very much. Just something about microwaves with the baby food. I just don't feel like it's that healthy with a newborn. So I got this cool product from Walmart, and it's a little baby warmer, and it's just like this little, almost looks like a little coffee pot or something, and then you stick the baby food right directly into it, and then you fill it, the outside, I think, with water, and you turn it on, and it just steams the baby food to like perfect temperature. And then you would take that out and just spoon feed your baby, and you start feeding the baby. Of course, your doctor will tell you all this about at the earliest 4 months, but most people wait till like about 6 months, and that's when you start introducing foods, or maybe even 5 months. They start introducing foods to them, and they'll do it one at a time. But your doctor will tell you all which foods to pick and all that. But most of all, just want to say, don't forget to enjoy your baby. There's lots of tips, there's lots of tricks out there, and you are going to be a great mom because you have that in your instinct just as a female. And just keep in mind, don't stress too much, and just enjoy this time, because you only get it, they grow up so fast. So don't forget to take lots of pictures of your baby. For me, I took pictures every month and made a little baby book for each one of them. And don't forget to play with them, and just use that time to just kind of relax. So use that time in the rocking chair with your baby to have some rest and have some peace and talk to God, and just enjoy looking at the cute chubby face, and don't forget to don't get so wrapped up in I sometimes can be a ball of stress and I would just get all wrapped up in, oh, this, oh, that, and then forget to just enjoy the moment, because it really doesn't last. Before you know it, they're walking, they're talking, they're running around, and they're tugging on you, wanting you to take them to the playground. So they're only babies for not that long. So just enjoy the time with your new baby. And remember that babies are a blessing from the Lord. And the Bible says that children are a reward from the Lord. So it's a blessing that you have this new baby. It's an exciting time. And just use it to rest and relax and just get to know your baby and just love on them and just enjoy them. They're a big blessing. And yeah, so that's all I have to say. If you have a tip yourself and that I didn't think of, I'm sure I'll think of some other things after I get done with this video. But if you have a tip that you'd like to share, please comment below. There's lots of good things, and as mothers, we can learn from each other. I don't know everything. These are just some things that I've learned to help make the transition from being a non-mom to a mom all of a sudden. So if you have some ideas, submit them below, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.